Good morning, friends. Welcome back to another videos in our GenAI concept series. So today we are going to talk about a very common question in generative AI, that is RAG or fine tuning. Which one should we use? So basically both are used to customize AI applications, but they solve completely different problems. In very simple words, RAG gives the model relevant knowledge and fine tuning teaches the model a particular behavior. So let us understand the difference step by step. What are RAG and fine tuning? So, as we learned earlier, RAG stands for Retrieval-Augmented Generation. With RAG, we don't change the model itself. Instead, when the user asks a question, we retrieve relevant information from an external knowledge source and give that information to the LLM as a context. For example, if I have a company's internal HR documents, I can retrieve the relevant leave policy information and give it to the LLM. Now, coming to the fine tuning, that is completely different. Here we take a pre-trained model and train it further using specific examples. The goal of fine-tuning is to make the model better at a particular task or make it follow a particular behavior consistently. So the simple distinction is RAG provide the knowledge, fine-tuning train behavior. Now, why do we need these approaches? Let us say I have a company chatbot. The company has thousands of documents and these documents always keeps changing. Maybe the HR policies changes next month. So in this case, I don't want to retrain my entire model every time a document changes. I can use RAG. The chatbot can simply retrieve the latest information when the user asks a question. But imagine I have a different requirement. I want my model to always respond in a specific style. For example, I want it generate responses in a particular format or perform a specific task consistently. In that situation, fine tuning might be useful. So, before choosing between them, ask yourself a question. Do I need to give the model new knowledge or do I need to change its behavior? And that is the key. So, how does RAG work? So, let me give you a brief about this. Suppose one example, what is our company's leave policy? This is the question. The system searches for an external knowledge source and retrieve the relevant information. And this further retrieved information becomes our context. Then we give the user's question along with this context to the LLM. And finally, LLM uses that information to generate the final answer. So the flow is that which you can see on the screen. And notice something very important. We are not training the model here. We are simply giving the model the right information at the right time. And that is the basic idea behind RAG. Now let us have a look at how does fine tuning work. Here instead of retrieving information at query time, we take a set of training examples and use them further to train the model. For example, suppose I want a model to classify customer complaints into specific categories. I can provide many examples showing customer complaint correct category. So the model learns from these examples. After training, we get a fine-tuned model that is better adapted to that particular task. So the basic flow is training examples, further training, fine-tuned model, and then output. So just remember a case. With RAG, we are changing the information available to the model. But with fine-tuning, we are changing how the model performs or behaves. Now let us look at one analogy. Imagine you hire a new employee. You want this employee to answer questions about your company. With RAG, you give the employee access to the company's latest documents. Whenever they need some information, they can look it up. So RAG, access for knowledge. Now imagine a different scenario. You want the employee to perform a particular task in a specific way. For example, you want them to always write customer emails using a particular style. You train the employee to do that, and that's what similar to the fine tuning. So, what are their use cases? So, RAG is very useful for things like enterprise knowledge assistance, customer support, frequently changing information, private company knowledge. So, basically, whenever the information is external, private, or frequently changing, RAG can be a great choice. And coming to the fine tuning, on the other hand, can be useful when we need some specialized task, consistent output style, domain specific behavior, structured responses, task specific performance, and one important thing, it is not always RAG versus fine tuning. In some real world systems, we can actually use both. For example, you can fine tune a model for a particular behavior and then use RAG to provide it with up to date information. Now, let us make this interview ready. If an interviewer asks what is the difference between RAG and fine tuning, the simple answer could be RAG provides the model with relevant external knowledge at query time, while fine tuning, on the other hand, further trains the model to improve a specific task or behavior. So just remember the two lines. RAG equal to knowledge. It gives the model access to relevant information. And coming to the fine tuning is equal to the behavior. It teaches the model how to perform a task or respond in a particular behavior. And whenever you are confused about which one to use, always ask a question. Do I need to give the model new knowledge or do I need to change its behavior? And that's the basic difference between RAG and fine tuning. I hope you have understood this concept easily. So I will see you in the next video with another exciting topic. Until then, keep learning and keep growing. Thank you for watching.